8-hour time-restricted eating linked to a 91% increased risk of cardiovascular death? What the heck? Yeah, over the last 24 hours, I've had more people text me about what I think about this headline, because I'm actually really careful not to say the word study, because, yeah, I'll show you why I'm so suspicious. Here's a couple of the highlights. Yes, over 20,000 people in this study, I'm going to do air quotes, and those who follow an 8-hour time-restricted eating schedule, a type of intermittent fasting, have a 91% higher risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Yeah, the part that really makes me irritated was this conclusion. It says, even though this type of diet has been popular due to its potential short-term benefits, our research clearly shows that compared with typical eating ranges of 12 to 16 hours per day, the shorter eating duration was not associated with living longer. Okay, let's break this down, because that's ridiculous. Okay, let's begin by pointing out that this is not a peer-reviewed article in a journal. This is a poster. And poster presentations do have a very important part of the conversation in the scientific process. It is the beginning of a conversation. It is not a conclusive answer. It is the beginning of a conversation. All right, let's take a look at this study. That method they used were, over the course of about 15 years, they surveyed over 43,000 people. They excluded folks who couldn't recall what their eating window had been the previous days. They also excluded people who had either a very low or high calorie intake, and they outlined that with 800 to 8,000 for men and 600 or greater than 6,000 for women. They then said, yeah, if you have an unusual diet, now I wonder if that meant, is this not usually how you eat? Or does that mean that I'm on like a ketogenic diet? Is that what they mean by unusual? It does not say. The final part that they excluded is if you couldn't find the follow-up information on them. So they reached out to these 20,000 people and said, over the last 2 days, what time frame did you eat? Looking at those who kept their eating window 8 hours or less, 8 to 10 hours, 12 hours, and then up over 16 hours. Once they had that data, they now said, let's check with the registration of death in 2019, at the end of the year of 2019, to see if these people died. And if so, what did the registry say they died from? Let's take a closer look at this data. First of all, they're showing you that, yes, the people that were less than 8 hours, these are their average ages. And they're using the 12 to 16 hour group as the reference. This is the comparison group. When you look at those that ate less than 8 hours a day, 27% of them were current smokers, as compared to nearly 17% of the reference range. First of all, that's a huge discrepancy and has a very clear link to one of the biggest risk factors for causing heart disease. So let's take a closer look at this all-cause mortality. First of all, we're going to notice that none of the p-values are the 0.05 that is standard for being confident in the information. This hazard ratio also, keep in mind, when the longer a line, the less likely we are to be confident in it. That's what this confidence interval is really looking at. When the line crosses the reference range, you should be very suspicious of whether or not this information is worthy of making headlines like this. So what their data says is if you had the eating window of less than 8 hours, you were 26% more likely to die of all-cause mortality. As much as the 26% increased death would have been a sensational headline, no. They use this one. They use the cardiovascular data to say that if you had an eating window of less than 8 hours, you were 91% more likely to die of heart disease. They were good enough to say that, yes, this p-value is in the right range to be confident in the math. But let's not skip the flaw that they asked them one time, what did you eat over the last 2 days? And then based on that data, we're going to look at your death some 8 to 13 years from now and conclude that the reason you died was because of that eating window that you had the 2 days prior to asking you that question. If you were one of the people sharing this headline with everyone, please share this video so they have a little bit of an idea of how crazy this headline is.